Hello everyone, welcome to your Eleanor, and this video we are going to explain Love Alert BL episode number 1. It tells the story of a sweet man named Jimmy. That night, he was seen at a club. As he remembered something, Jimmy shed tears and immediately drank. Someone came and said that it was very sad to drink alone. He offered Jimmy to join him. Jimmy insisted that he didn't want to because he had a lover. However, his lover had broken up with Jimmy. He didn't want to come back. While holding his glass, Jimmy was determined to fix everything. Jimmy missed his lover very much. But Jimmy didn't know what to do. Hearing that, the man only hoped that Jimmy could win back his lover's heart. After that, Jimmy cried again while drinking his drink. Besides that man, a girl came and immediately sat beside Jimmy. She even held Jimmy's hand. Realizing his hand was being held, Jimmy immediately pulled his hand away. In a drunken state, Jimmy went home alone. Two men came and pushed Jimmy. The men were angry because they thought Jimmy had stolen their lover. When they were about to hit Jimmy, Jimmy's friend, Tay, came and stopped the two men. Seeing Jimmy's miserable condition, Jimmy muttered that if Toe could see that he didn't go with someone else, would that mean he had already become a good person? Hearing that, Tay immediately reminded him that Jimmy truly was a good person. He would never hurt his brother. Jimmy begged Tay to help him, because after breaking up with Toe, Jimmy always missed him. If he could turn back time, Jimmy would do everything better. He would not disappoint Toe. Meanwhile, in another place, there was a cute man named Toe. He was also lost in his sadness. Then Toe stood up and walked toward a pot with an engraving of none other than Jimmy. Toe cried because of his disappointment. If he could turn back time, Toe would not love Jimmy as deeply as he does now. The story flashes back to 3 months earlier. Inside a bedroom, Jimmy was seen together with his boyfriend, Run. That day, they spent time together, just like a couple. This part was very hot. After it was over, Jimmy said that Run could stay there if he wanted to, while Jimmy would take a shower. Run replied that he would think about his decision. Notifications kept ringing from Jimmy's phone. Run checked it, and he was shocked and annoyed. Meanwhile, at Toe's house, Toe was preparing breakfast. Tay, who had just come out of his room, started praising how fragrant his brother's cooking was. However, when Tay served the food, he looked a little annoyed. Seeing his brother's face, Toe asked the reason. Did he not like the food Toe cooked? Tay said that wasn't the case. He was just thinking that if someone took Toe away from him, it would already ruin his mood. Toe comforted Tay, saying that he didn't need to worry. After all, he stayed at home every day. Who would he even meet? Hearing that, Tay remembered that he would put up a sign in front of the house that said to let go of the owner's hand, because if not, his little brother would bite. Toe smiled hearing what Tay said. But for Tay, he was serious. He would not allow his brother to date anyone without Tay's permission. Toe agreed and immediately told Tay to eat, so he wouldn't be late. Seeing how caring his brother was for him, who else could he love if not his brother? Then Toe asked. Since Tay had dated many partners, but had never introduced any of them, Tay admitted that he had indeed dated many partners, but none of them were good enough to meet his brother. So Tay dumped them all. Hearing his brother's words, Toe wondered who could handle his brother. and whether Tae would forget To if he truly fell in love with someone. For Tae, he wasn't sure about that. However, he reminded To again not to date. If that was the case, according to To, if Tae didn't allow him to date, it would be better if Tae took care of him for the rest of his life. Tae smiled and agreed. On the other side, Run was getting ready to leave. Jimmy thought that Run would stay at his place. Instead, Run asked whether Jimmy was still exchanging messages with someone else. At first, Jimmy didn't admit it. However, Run explained that someone had just sent a message to Jimmy's phone. Jimmy accused Run of snooping on his phone. Run said that it was displayed on the screen. Surely Jimmy did all of this so they could continue their relationship. Jimmy replied that he did it only for fun, and that there was no attachment at all. Why did Run have to take it so seriously? Hearing that, Run slapped Jimmy's cheek. Run said that this was the third time Jimmy had cheated. Did Jimmy not know at all what loyalty meant? Jimmy only said that he had always done such things even before they were in a relationship. Why couldn't Run accept it now? Run began to throw harsh words because of Jimmy's attitude. And if Jimmy couldn't change, then their relationship was over. Run left Jimmy behind. Jimmy only reminded him not to come back to him again. At the campus park, Tae said that Jimmy had broken up with Run once again, and asked when Jimmy would change. Jimmy mocked Tae, saying that he was no different from him. Tae didn't want to be compared to a jerk like Jimmy, because Tae only dated one person at a time, broke up first, and then looked for someone else. Not like Jimmy. According to Jimmy, he had already told Run before they dated. Seeing that there was no regret in Jimmy, Tae asked whether Jimmy and Run were truly over now. For Jimmy, he wasn't someone who begged, and he didn't care at all. If they couldn't stand him, they could just leave. Besides, Jimmy already had a new target. Tae asked who it was. A sweet-looking man was seen chatting with his friends. His name was Playfa, often called Fa. Fa was Jimmy's new target. Tae was quite shocked because Fa was an idol on campus. Jimmy was confident because he himself was also an attractive man. Tae had to remember Jimmy's words now, that he would make Fa his. Hearing that, Tae was truly amazed by Jimmy's courage. Jimmy only wanted Tae to keep watching him. Jimmy hurried to look for Fa. He began asking the female students there. One of them said that Fa was inside the building. With a smile, Jimmy immediately left. Meanwhile, on the stairs, there was a female student named Amy who stopped Fa. She wanted to talk to Fa privately. Amy heard that Fa was single now. If that was true, she wanted to pursue him. Fa replied that if it was Amy, he wouldn't mind, because lately Fa had been feeling annoyed. Maybe dating a girl could change his mood. Amy was happy to hear that. But Fa hadn't finished his sentence. Fa wasn't someone easy to chase. But that didn't mean it was impossible either. If Amy wanted to try. Amy asked Fa to give her his line and Instagram contacts. All this time, the conversation between Fa and Amy was also heard by Jimmy. Tae, who knew the story, could only laugh at his friend. Tae began teasing Jimmy, telling him not to cry. To came to campus to deliver Tae's iPad that had been left behind. Knowing that Tae needed it and didn't answer his calls at all, To came to bring it himself. Tae was very grateful to his brother, and even hugged To. Tae began introducing Jimmy to his brother, because Jimmy was acting quite formal. To said that Jimmy could just act normally. Even greeting casually was enough. Jimmy heard that Tay often talked about him. He asked To not to believe all the stories Tay told, because Jimmy was a good person. In the middle of their meeting, Fa, who knew To, began to greet him. Unexpectedly, Fa and To were also close. They began asking about each other's condition and activities. To introduced Fa, saying that Fa was a new student when To was a senior on campus. Tay and Jimmy also began greeting and introducing themselves to Fa. Fa asked whether Tay didn't remember him. To To, it seemed like that was the case. Tay had once met Fa when he came to visit To on campus. To felt that Tay had forgotten. Fa said that he remembered Tay. He also knew that Tay studied at the same campus, but they had never met. After To explained the reason he came to campus, he intended to leave soon because he still had errands to do. Tay immediately gave his car keys to To, so he could go home using the car. And Fa escorted To to the parking area. Seeing the closeness between To and Fa, a wide smile appeared on Jimmy's lips. Along the way, Jimmy remembered that Fa and To knew each other. Jimmy suddenly acted sweet toward Tay. He also offered to take Tay home. Arriving at home, Tay immediately called his brother. He said that Jimmy had taken him home, so Tay invited Jimmy to stop by. Jimmy smiled and acted politely. He apologized for disturbing them. Jimmy also didn't forget to ask what To was working on. To replied that he was looking for cafe references. After playing basketball earlier, Tay went to take a shower first. After Tay left, awkwardness appeared between the two of them. To break the ice, To went to make a drink. Jimmy stopped him, but To insisted on making one of the cafe menu items, a special drink. The drink was finished, but the faucet suddenly got stuck. Jimmy came over and immediately helped To. To felt uncomfortable because Jimmy was his guest. According to Jimmy, he was the one who had disturbed To, so he would help him. The two of them looked at each other. The sound of a ringing phone was heard. To immediately went to answer it. It turned out to be a call from Mr. Wet. Tay came down from his room. He asked where his friend was. To replied that Jimmy was helping him fix the faucet, because there was a loud noise. Tay and To then went to Jimmy. Jimmy stood up, completely soaked. Tay asked what Jimmy was doing to the furniture in his house. Jimmy answered Tay's question, saying that he was only helping his brother fix the stuck faucet, and everything was already finished. Seeing Jimmy completely soaked, To asked what was wrong with the faucet. Jimmy explained the reason why it was stuck. To thanked Jimmy for his help. Besides that, To suggested that Jimmy change his clothes. Jimmy said it wasn't necessary, because his clothes would dry soon. To was captivated by Jimmy's charm, and insisted that Jimmy change his clothes. Tay, of course, didn't want to lend his clothes. Jimmy also said that he didn't want to wear Tay's clothes. Just thinking about it already scared him. To smiled at their conversation, and hurried to his room to find clothes for Jimmy. To came back carrying his own clothes. Without blinking, To looked at Jimmy unbuttoning his shirt. Tay, realizing his brother's gaze, immediately turned toward Jimmy, covered Jimmy's body, and told him to change in the bathroom. Tay himself pushed Jimmy to go quickly. Firmly, Tay warned his brother not to fall in love with Jimmy. To replied that he wasn't thinking about that. After all, Jimmy was Tay's friend. Tay firmly reminded him again that Jimmy was a player. Tay knew exactly what Jimmy was like, so To should never cross that line. He told his brother this for his own good. Besides, Tay didn't want to see To get hurt. It would be better for To stay away from Jimmy. To reassured his brother that nothing would happen. Tae was overthinking. After Jimmy changed his clothes, he was invited to have lunch together. Enjoying the food made by To, Jimmy began to praise it and intended to come back again. Tae immediately interrupted Jimmy, saying that his house was not a restaurant. Jimmy should find food somewhere else. To reminded Tae that Jimmy was his friend. Jimmy complained that Tae was always strict with him, knowing that To would open a cafe because the food he made was delicious. Jimmy also reminded To that he had to make good desserts too. If Jimmy came back again, what should he bring? To said Jimmy didn't need to bring anything. If he wanted to come, he could just come. Jimmy said he couldn't keep eating for free. At least he had to give something to To. To then said that there were some desserts he couldn't make. The shop was near the campus. If possible, Jimmy could bring those desserts. But not too many, because To didn't want to gain weight. Jimmy agreed. Seeing Jimmy chatting with his brother, Tae told Jimmy to stop flirting with him. He also forbade Jimmy from coming to his house again. Firmly, Jimmy was told to finish eating and go home. Jimmy complained again to To, because To was indeed kind. Instead, Tae was the one who got reminded not to act that way. Being ignored, Tae could only hold back his annoyance. After they were done, Tae pulled Jimmy outside and again warned Jimmy not to come to his house anymore. Jimmy asked the reason why. Tae answered that he didn't want his brother to fall in love with Jimmy, and he was sure that Jimmy would only hurt To. To was an easy target, and Tae knew exactly what Jimmy was like. Jimmy said that he never thought about it that way. Tae was exaggerating. Tae firmly warned his friend again that if Jimmy crossed the line, he would be finished. Jimmy agreed and promised that he would not touch To. Tae told him to remember that promise. Then Tae said goodbye and left. That night, To lay down, remembering what had happened earlier. The more he thought about it, the more he remembered his brother's words. To wondered who would even fall in love. But when he tried to sleep, he could only smile. Meanwhile, at Jimmy's house, Jimmy was enjoying his night by the pool. He also smiled when he remembered his first meeting with To. Jimmy also remembered that To had lent him his clothes. Jimmy murmured that Tae's brother was truly tempting. The next day, To took Tae to campus. He asked again whether Tae had brought all the important things. Tae casually said that if he forgot something, he would call his brother. Before leaving, To asked what Tae wanted for dinner later. Tae said he would think about it first and then tell To. Tae didn't forget to hug his brother. After Tae left, Jimmy came with a wide smile. He immediately greeted To. To thought that Jimmy came to see his brother, but it turned out that Jimmy came to meet To. Jimmy brought desserts from To's favorite shop. Consider it a thank you for yesterday. Besides that, could Jimmy have a free cup of coffee? To, of course, agreed and invited Jimmy into the house. After To prepared the coffee, the two of them drank together. Jimmy praised the coffee again, saying it suited his taste. Jimmy wanted To tell him when the cafe would open, because he would be To's first customer. To said that he would call Jimmy and would even scold him if he didn't come. To told Jimmy that his favorite dessert shop was always crowded and sold out very quickly. What time did Jimmy go there? Jimmy answered that he went very early. He wasn't someone who liked waking up early, but for To, he would make the effort. To felt shy hearing that. While To was enjoying the dessert, Jimmy wiped the crumbs from To's lips. To froze for a moment, then realized it and said that Jimmy treated him like a child. To Jimmy, To was indeed like that. As adorable as a child. To became even more shy. Jimmy then talked about the clothes he borrowed yesterday. He would wash them first and bring them back. To said it was fine. Jimmy could bring them back another time. Jimmy asked if he could keep them for now. The scent of the clothes was the same as To's. Jimmy began to stroke To's thigh, and asked what if he kept To's clothes forever. To only smiled softly and nodded in agreement. Jimmy then held To's hand. After everything was done, To thanked Jimmy for the dessert. He was quite happy about it. Suddenly, Jimmy said that To shouldn't say yet that he was happy or satisfied, because then Jimmy would have no reason to meet him again. At least To should know that he was very cute when he blushed. To's phone rang. It was a call from his brother. When To was about to answer it, Jimmy stopped him, telling him not to answer now, and not to say that Jimmy was there. Jimmy reasoned that he had to work on a presentation with Tay. But he came to see To first. To, who was innocent, understood. He wouldn't tell Tay. And Jimmy could leave first. Jimmy smiled and waved before leaving. To then answered Tay's call. Tay asked why To had just answered. To made an excuse that a courier had delivered something. So he went outside to receive the package. To reminded Tay again what food he wanted for dinner later. At campus, Fa was sitting alone when Jimmy approached him. Nervously, Jimmy said that he bought desserts for Fa. Fa thanked him for that. Since Fa remained silent and busy with his phone, Jimmy excused himself and left. After Jimmy left, Fa gave the dessert to another student sitting there. Meanwhile, Tay angrily approached Jimmy, who was chatting happily with his friends. Tay pulled Jimmy aside. Jimmy asked what was wrong with him. Tay then showed the CCTV recording from his house. Tay knew very well what Jimmy was like. Jimmy said that he only bought desserts for To as a thank you. However, Tay angrily said that he had already told Jimmy to stay away from his brother. Tay pulled Jimmy again. They almost got into a fight, and their friends were seen holding them back to stop the two of them from fighting. That's all for this part. See you in the next episode too. Thank you for watching and then have a nice day.